Have you ever stepped into a small house and, without a word, felt your entire body relax? Not because of its design or price tag, but because it carried a quiet sense of care. Every object seemed to rest in its place. Every room felt loved, as if the home itself had learned how to breathe with the person who lived there. Let me tell you a story. It begins not in Kyoto, but in a quiet suburb just outside of Portland, Oregon, where a woman named Hanamori, born and raised in Japan, now lives alone. She's 81 years old. No children in the house. No caretaker. Just her memories, and a home that still feels warm, alive, and astonishingly in order. Visitors are often surprised. Not by luxury, Hannah's home is modest, but by how deeply peaceful it feels. Like stepping inside a still moment. Like time slows just a little when you're in her kitchen. How does she do it? How does an elderly woman, living alone in a foreign country, keep her home so tidy, so welcoming, without ever looking tired or overwhelmed? The answer lies in 7 quiet habits. Small rituals she picked up over the years. Some from her childhood in Japan. Others from simply paying attention to what helped her feel at peace. She doesn't chase perfection. She doesn't spend hours cleaning. She just follows a rhythm. Everything has its place. Little tasks are done right away. She holds on to only what matters. Each room has a clear purpose. She tidies for just 5 minutes every evening. She prepares for the next day the night before. And above all, she practices gratitude for every object, every corner, every breath. This isn't a story about comparing countries. It's a story about the quiet dignity of aging with intention. And about how the small things, done with love, can create a space that sustains you, even when you're on your own. What I love most about Hannah's story is that she didn't wait for motivation or youth to return. She began with what she could manage. 1 drawer, 1 minute, 1 corner at a time. And if she could do that at 81, maybe we can too. If this story brings you a sense of calm, or reminds you of your own grandmother, or perhaps your future self, please consider liking, sharing, or subscribing to our channel. We create stories like this to bring ease, clarity, and a little inspiration to your day. Now, let's begin with Hannah's first habit. Habit number 1, everything has a place, and everything returns to it. The moment I stepped into Hanamori's cottage, something subtle but powerful happened. Not a word was said, but I felt it. A gentle order humming through the space, like a quiet melody. There was nothing extravagant. Yet everything was exactly where it belonged. The TV remote rested neatly on the corner of the coffee table. Her house slippers pointed calmly toward the door. A folded hand towel lay perfectly aligned on a wooden shelf. No clutter. No chaos. No confusion. I turned to her and asked, "Do you spend a lot of time organizing every day?" She gave me the kindest smile and said, "Oh no. I don't clean. I just let everything return home." At first, it sounded too simple. But the more I watched her move through the room, the more I understood. This wasn't cleaning. This was a way of being. A habit formed not overnight, but over a lifetime of gentle repetition. And I thought about myself. How many times had I left a cup near the window for now? Dropped my jacket on a chair, telling myself I'd hang it up later? How many mornings had started in frustration, just because I couldn't find what I'd misplaced the night before? That's the difference between clutter and clarity. It's not about stuff. It's about decisions. Tiny, daily decisions that either create order or invite chaos. But Hannah? She didn't allow her things to wander. Each object in her home had a rightful place. And every time she used something, she simply guided it back, like returning a child after playtime. She once told me, "Just like people, things need a place to belong, or they get lost." Since then, I've started making changes. Nothing drastic, just one small promise. Put the remote back. Hang the keys. Fold the towel and return it to its shelf. That one habit brought me more peace than hours of weekend cleaning ever did. No more searching. No more forgetting. And slowly, my home began to feel different. Lighter. So did my mind. Because tidiness doesn't begin with cleaning. It begins with belonging. Habit number 2, if it takes less than a minute, do it now. It happened so fast, I nearly missed it. We were sitting at her table, talking about books and seasons. Then Hannah stood up to pour more tea. As she passed the countertop, she paused, picked up a cloth, and gently wiped a tiny drop she had just spilled. It took her all of 3 seconds. But that moment stuck with me. Why didn't you just wait until after we finished? I asked. She tilted her head thoughtfully. If something takes less than a minute, she said, I'd rather finish it now. It wasn't spoken like a rule, but like something she had absorbed into her rhythm of life. And instantly, I thought of all the tiny things I postpone. The glass I leave in the sink. The shirt draped over the chair. The sticky note I plan to throw away later. One little delay becomes another. And soon, without noticing, I'm overwhelmed by 100 tiny undone things. But not Hannah. She moves lightly through her day. No heavy lists. No growing piles of I'll get to it. Just small actions, done when they appear. And forgotten just as quickly. She said softly, I don't like unfinished things lingering in the house. They take space in the room and in the mind. I knew exactly what she meant. I've gone to bed so many nights feeling vaguely frustrated. Not from one big task, but from the weight of small things I ignored. What Hannah reminded me was this. You don't have to wait for inspiration. You don't need energy or motivation. Sometimes, all you need is a single moment. And the willingness to act within it. Because 1 minute of action can spare you a whole day of delay. Habit number 3, keep only what truly matters. A few days later, I returned to visit Hannah again. This time, I brought a small gift. A delicate porcelain teacup, hand-painted with plum blossoms. She received it with both hands, bowed gently, and whispered, This is lovely. But I'll need to let something else go. I blinked. Let something go? I asked. She nodded, her tone calm, not burdened. In this house, she said, I only keep what I can care for with love. That sentence stopped me cold. She led me to a small cabinet by the window. Inside were 4 teacups, each different, each with a story. This one, she said, was my mother's. This one I bought after my husband passed. To remind myself I could choose something beautiful for me. And now, with my gift in her hands, she quietly made a decision. She selected the oldest, most worn cup and placed it into a donation box. Not out of guilt. Not in haste. But with a kind of reverence, like releasing an old memory to make space for the new. It struck me then. Hannah's home wasn't tidy because she was strict or minimalist. It was calm because she was selective. Every item had a meaning. And if it no longer served her life, if it no longer sparked joy or purpose, she let it go, without apology. I thought about my own kitchen drawer. The tangled mess of things I never used but couldn't seem to toss. The gifts I kept out of guilt. The clothes that hadn't fit in years, but I told myself, maybe one day. Hannah doesn't live in maybe. She lives in now. She once told me, I want to live in a home that reflects who I am today. Not who I used to be, or who I'm afraid to let go of. And that truth has stayed with me. Because it's not just our homes we clutter. It's our minds, our emotions, our past selves. Letting go isn't loss. It's choosing what matters now. And when we surround ourselves with only the things that speak to the present, we give ourselves more room to breathe and more room to grow. So I went home that night. Not to clean, but to listen. To touch each object and ask, Do you still belong in my life today? Some stayed. Some left. And with each choice, I felt a little lighter. Habit number 4, every space has a purpose and knows its role. It was raining the next time I visited Hannah. A quiet, misty drizzle blurred the windows, and her house smelled faintly of sandalwood and tea. As I took off my coat, I noticed something curious. Her living room, her kitchen, even the hallway. They all felt intentional. Not just clean. Not just organized. Each space seemed to know what it was meant for, and refused to be anything else. Her dining table, for instance, held no paperwork, no chargers, no random piles. Just a linen runner, 2 ceramic plates, and a small vase with a single white camellia. Do you ever work at the table? I asked. She shook her head gently. This is where I eat, she said. So it stays empty, except for meals. I don't want my food to share space with unfinished tasks. Then she pointed toward a small desk by the window, barely 3 feet wide. This is where I write letters, she smiled. It's my little station for thoughts. Even her bedroom held a quiet clarity. No storage bins. No folded laundry in the corner. Just a bed, a book, and a reading lamp. A place to rest, nothing more. It wasn't about perfection. It was about boundaries. Invisible lines drawn with quiet discipline and deep respect. I give each space a job, Hannah told me. And I try not to confuse them. The more I sat with that idea, the more it made sense. So often, our spaces become mixed-up reflections of our scattered minds. We eat where we work, scroll where we sleep, pile clothes where we're supposed to rest. And slowly, we stop knowing what peace feels like in our own homes. But Hannah had built her home like a garden. Each section tended, defined, respected. And because of that, there was no overwhelm. No mental friction walking from room to room. I don't like tension between spaces, she said softly. When each place knows its role, I can relax into mine. That night, I returned to my apartment and stood in silence. The kitchen counter held unopened mail. My bed had notebooks stacked where a pillow should be. My couch had become a part-time laundry basket. No wonder I always felt tired. So I picked one room. Just one. And asked myself, what is this room truly for? Then I cleared it. Not just the clutter, but the confusion. And in doing so, I found something I hadn't felt in a long time. A sense of home that welcomed me back. Habit number 5, just 5 minutes, a quiet reset each night. It was nearly sunset when I asked Hannah how often she cleaned. The sky outside her window was brushed with soft gold and lavender. And her hands moved slowly over the rim of her teacup. Only 5 minutes, she said. I laughed, genuinely surprised. Every night? She nodded. Just 5. But I do it with full attention. She stood and walked over to her sink. There were no dishes there, no stray crumbs. She wiped a clean cloth once across the counter, then folded it and placed it on a hook. That's it? I asked. She smiled. That's it. I don't try to fix everything. I just close the day gently. I followed her as she moved through the house. Not scrubbing. Not vacuuming. Just checking, resetting. She placed a book back on the shelf. Straightened a cushion. Turned off one small light. Then paused in the hallway, breathed in, and whispered, "Thank you for today." It wasn't a chore. It was a ritual. A way of saying to her home, "You cared for me today. Let me care for you in return." And that changed everything for me. Because for years, I had treated cleaning as a burden. A weekend project, a punishment for busy days. But Hannah treated tidying like brushing her hair or saying goodnight. Just something kind you do for yourself before resting. She told me, if I leave too many things for tomorrow, then tomorrow doesn't feel like a new day. It feels like leftovers. That line hit me right in the heart. I thought of all the mornings I'd woken up already behind. Laundry still in the basket. Dishes still in the sink. Mentally tired before the day had even begun. So I tried her way. One night, just before bed, I set a timer for 5 minutes. I didn't rush, just moved gently through the space. Put my shoes back. Folded a blanket. Closed a drawer I'd left open. And then I sat in the quiet. The room felt different. Not sparkling or spotless. Just at peace. I was surprised at how deeply that peace carried into my sleep. How much lighter I felt waking up. How much more ready I was to greet the next day. And ever since then, 5 minutes before bed has become the softest, most loving part of my evening. Not a task. A gift. Habit number 6, tomorrow begins tonight. One evening, as Hannah and I finished our tea, I noticed her quietly rising from the table. The sun had dipped below the trees, and the last light of the day brushed her home in a soft amber hue. I watched as she walked into her bedroom, opened her closet, and laid out the clothes she would wear the next morning. A simple linen blouse, a soft blue cardigan, and a scarf patterned with cranes. Then she walked to the kitchen, filled the kettle, and placed a fresh teacup on a tray. Beside it, she left a small dish of almonds and a folded note. She returned to her seat and said, "I like when tomorrow doesn't start with a question." I looked at her, puzzled. She smiled. No question about what to wear. No question about what I'll drink. No rush. No rummaging. Just a soft beginning. It was such a quiet habit, so unremarkable on the surface. And yet, it felt like one of the deepest forms of self-kindness I had ever witnessed. She wasn't preparing in case things went wrong. She was preparing to greet the day, gently. I thought about my own mornings. The noise of the alarm. The scramble to find socks or keys. The forgotten lunch, the uncharged phone. How easily the chaos of a single morning could shape the tone of an entire day. Hannah had chosen a different rhythm. She didn't wait for morning to bring peace. She planted it the night before, like laying out breadcrumbs for her future self. "It's my way of saying," she whispered, "I'll meet you there, Hannah-san. And you won't have to rush." That sentence stayed with me. Because preparing for the next day isn't just about clothes or checklists. It's about reducing the friction between now and what's next. It's about trusting yourself enough to care for your tomorrow, while you still have the calm of today. So I began my own version. Nothing grand. Just small things. A glass of water on the nightstand. A list of what mattered most written on a sticky note. Clothes folded at the edge of the bed. Phone charged. Curtains drawn. One deep breath. And in that moment, I wasn't just preparing for the morning. I was building a bridge to it. With tenderness. With intention. With love. Habit number 7, offer gratitude for what you already have. On my final visit that season, Hannah invited me to stay for a late lunch. As we sat near the window, the wind outside rustled the maple leaves. Inside, her home was still, but not silent. It hummed with presence. With care. When she brought out the meal, it was modest: steamed rice, miso soup, a few pickled vegetables, and a ceramic bowl with hand-painted blossoms. Before lifting her chopsticks, she bowed her head slightly and whispered, "Itadakimasu." I'd heard the word before, but this time I asked her what it truly meant. "It means, I receive," she said. "But more than that, it's a moment to thank everyone who made this meal possible. The farmers. The cook. Even the bowl that holds it." She tapped the side of the bowl gently with her fingers. "This dish has served me for 20 years. It has cracks now, but it still holds warmth. I owe it thanks." That's when I saw it. Gratitude, in Hannah's life, wasn't something saved for birthdays or holidays. It was stitched into the fabric of her days. Not loud. Not ceremonial. Just constant and sincere. When she washed her clothes, she thanked the cloth for keeping her warm. When she folded a towel, she touched it gently, like one might touch an old friend. Even as she put away her shoes, she murmured thanks for the miles they had walked with her. This, she said quietly, is how I take care of things. Not just by cleaning them, but by acknowledging them. And suddenly, I realized why her home felt different. It wasn't just neat. It was loved. Every item, no matter how small, was seen, respected, and cared for. I thought of all the things in my own home I'd ignored. The chair with the wobbly leg I always complained about. The mug with the chip that I pushed to the back. The sweater I wore through long winters but never once thanked. Gratitude, I saw, isn't about grand gestures. It's about paying attention. And when we pay attention, we stop consuming and start connecting. So I tried. The next morning, I poured tea into my oldest mug. I ran my hand over its surface and whispered, "Thank you for staying with me this long." And just like that, a simple morning became sacred. Hannah never asked for more space, more storage, more things. She simply deepened her relationship with what she already had. And in doing so, she built a home not of objects, but of appreciation. That's the real beauty of her habits. They don't require money, or youth, or energy, only attention, and a little bit of love. So here they are, Hannah More's 7 quiet habits. 1. Give everything a home. 2. Do anything that takes less than a minute. 3. Keep only what still serves your life today. 4. Let each space have one clear purpose. 5. Reset the house for 5 minutes each night. 6. Begin tomorrow the night before. And thank the things that carry you, quietly, every day. She never said these as rules. She simply lived them. And through her, I learned that a peaceful home isn't built in a day. It's built in small moments. In soft decisions. In choosing presence over perfection. And now, maybe, it's your turn to begin. Start small. Just one drawer. One breath. One thank you. The rest will follow. In a world that constantly pushes us to do more, buy more, be more, Hannah More's life whispers a different truth. Peace doesn't come from having everything. It comes from being present with what you already have. You don't need a bigger house to feel at home. You don't need youth to move with grace. And you don't need perfection to feel proud of the life you've built. These 7 habits aren't rules. They're quiet invitations. To notice. To care. To return, again and again, to a life you don't need to escape from. Because when we treat our home with love, when we give every object a place, when we close the day with care, and open tomorrow with calm intention, we are not just organizing things. We are organizing ourselves. So if something in Hannah's story touched your heart, if even one small habit made you pause and think, yes, I could do that too, then let this be your beginning. Start with your shoes. Start with your nightstand. Start with gratitude. And as always, if this story gave you something gentle, something useful, something worth carrying into your own life, please like, share, and subscribe. Not for us, but for you. For the quiet home you're building. One kind habit at a time. Thank you for being here. We'll see you in the next story.